Hey there YouTube, welcome to Big Red Barn Farms. Today, for my first video, we're going to prove that I can hit the broadside of a barn. And if you're wondering what we farm here at Big Red Barn Farms, currently it's death and cats. And maybe a few bell peppers are hanging on until Thanksgiving. But first things first, we need to fix up the hardware, which in a working backwards process means getting a 65-pound anvil from those steps to this garage. Wish me luck. Not much of my house looks presentable, but at least the back step has some homegrown decor. Here at Big Red Barn Farms, we also grow our own fall decoration. Mum's not included. This is the vise in question, and I am actually very surprised and pleased with myself that I can lift, what's that say, 67 pounds? Yeah, not fun, but I can do it. So, not going to carry that all the way down there. That's about 40, 50 feet. You want an unboxing video? Yeah, neither do I. Oh! This came in a bigger box than that. I don't know, the cats will be happy. Ouch! Ooh! Hey look, my first video and I'm already bleeding. It's okay, I have my tetanus shot. Well, that was less of a struggle than I thought it would be. As I said, I'm pretty proud of myself for being able to lift 67 pounds. Last year I did some work with mortar and concrete, and the 80-pound bags, I could shift them, but I couldn't quite lift them. That's half my body weight, and it's hefty. It's very hefty. You'll see more of that on the channel eventually. So, this was a housewarming gift from a coworker. Shout out to you, Bill. Thank you. This little guy I got off a marketplace for 30 bucks. It's quite handy to be able to just lift it up and clamp it down. Both of these obviously can be mounted to the table. This is not their final resting place, and I'll have a final resting place someday. You're going to get to see me build a shop. You're going to get to see someone who's not 6 feet tall build a shop. In the meantime, and for today, we're doing a little hardware restoration. I literally pulled these out of the earth, found them. A couple of barn door hinges. This one moves around. And this one, yeah, PB Blaster did not solve this problem. So, gonna put it in the vise. Gonna put another vise on it. Gonna maybe crank down on it with a pipe wrench. See if we can bend it back into shape. If not, well, thank God the store is only 20 minutes away. And yes, I went and grabbed a Band-Aid. I also put some bacitracin on there. It's kind of funny. Most of you have probably noticed that I have gloves in my pocket. So it bent and it cracked, and it did not just crack the surface rust, it cracked the actual metal under there. So that's junk. I guess we're going to the store. You know, I think I might have another one of these. Would you believe that I cleaned that last fall? This used to be 3 feet deep in sand. This used to be a sand pile too. Groundhogs, man. Yeah, I'd say those match. One is stripped. It's a flathead. They're all flatheads. And that one right there is really stripped. So guess I'm gonna have to drill this out, but at least I know it works and it'll be worth it. I hope. Alright, so we've drilled one screw head, and you don't really have to drill the entire length of the screw, you just have to get the head to break or break off. And here you can see I was not centered. I can hit the broadside of a barn. Doesn't mean I can center myself on a screw. Practice makes perfect. But you can see I've broken off half the head of the screw. And now you're going to see me do a whole bunch of wiggling and jiggling to try to get that off of there. We want to get the door off because that's what's holding weight on this. If I lift the door, you can see I've got all the screws loosened. We want to get the door off before we attack the other screw that needs to be drilled. So back to it. So of course I find this angle after I'm mostly done with this job. Go figure. Yeah, works like a charm. So I'm putting my shoulder into it to give it my body weight to try to keep it in that groove. Nah, it's just stripped. This screwdriver has a slightly thicker drive? I don't know what you call that. I'm not a professional. Yeah, no, that's just in there. The one other thing we can try is, and I can sort of get under here once in a while getting, you gotta be kidding me. Look at that. I barely angled anything. Once in a while getting under something and prying at it when it's wood or something malleable. I wouldn't say this works with metal unless you're bending the metal. But once in a while you can get under it, pry at it, and sort of get a little bit of play and then go from there. Whether that means I'm going to strip the head off of this screw or give myself something to pull against while I spin the screw. I guess it's got to be bitten into the wood. It's not rusted on there, that's what I'm happy about. If it was rusted on there, I'd be in for a really miserable time. Now, these screw heads are wider than the holes, and that's by design. I've actually been saving all the screws. They're in my pocket. See if this will turn. Oh, nope, no dice. Well, all right. back to drilling. So on the other one that I just finished, I used two different sized drill bits, 1/8 and 9/64. It's a 64th of difference. I do not expect you to be able to see that, but the difference is just enough that I had some confidence in myself for just not lining up straight. I have drilled out screws. This might be the 5th time if I'm being generous, so don't feel like you have to have experience before getting experience. If I place the drill bit directly in the center, it gets caught and the chuck spins, but the drill bit is actually caught in the groove of the flathead screw. So there's some finagling that has to happen here. I'm essentially trying to hog out the groove of the screw so that it's wider, it's as wide as the drill bit, so that it stops getting stuck on that edge. Maybe a better way to do it, I don't know it. Put it in the comments if you do. Like I said, I'm no professional. Now we're cooking with gas. Something went thump. Yeah, we're through part of it. Ooh. Okay, put the drill in reverse and get out of that. It got stuck for a moment. That is fine work. Remember, kids, maintain 3 points of contact. Remember, kids, don't hit yourself in the collarbone with metal. That's fine, it works, we're good. I don't need to get that all the way out of there because I'm redoing this door with obviously different hinges. I think this is the last functional one of these that I've found in this barn. You know, unless 2 more come out of the dirt like the others have. So, we can build this door now. Sometimes I like to think about the next guy who comes along and comes in and starts saying the same thing as I did when it was in its original condition. Because someone's going to see that sticking out of here someday and say, what the heck happened here? Or someone will see it and think, yes, I know your struggles. All right, it's the next day. I had some other errands to run in town, but I got my 3 pounds of 1 1/4 inch exterior screws. This whole barn is going to need work, so might as well buy them now. And before I show you the rest of my setup, let's put on some gloves. You can see the band-aids off. It wasn't that bad a cut, but let's not do that again, huh? Experience is the best teacher, they say. So, what do we have? Finally picked myself up a speed square. Don't know if I'm going to use it. Next up, we have our hardware. This guy moves really well. This guy moves well enough. Also laid out tape measure, fence pliers. If you don't have a set of these, I highly recommend them. You can get anything out with them, whether you do it sideways, do it straight on, claw it out, beat it down. I have found many uses for them. And yeah, other than that, I'm not a professional. I'm using a Sharpie to mark things. I know I should probably get some wood pencils. They're on the list, and the list is very, very long. So, let's take a look at what we're working on. So the first piece of any project is the mental work. The question is, how am I going to approach this? This barn was built probably in the 1920s. As it stands today, we're going to figure out what kind of boards we want to salvage to put in here. So, we have our choice. You can see up here, same board, same boards. These original boards are right about 7 inches wide. They were originally tongue and groove. So if you count the tongue that's hidden here, that's about 7 inches wide. My neighbor was kind enough, shout out to you, Nick, to donate a bunch of deck wood that he had from redecking with Trex last summer. So I have a bunch of 1x6, you know, the modern 6 inches. That's really only 5 1/2, quarter, somewhere in there. So we're gonna take this lip up here, measure out, and consider, you know, do we want to try to match up these old red and white painted faded boards? I have an awful lot of them sitting in a stash that I've just picked up from around the barn. Or do we want to try to trim that out with deck boards and, you know, not have it quite match up, have that door look different? It's also a matter of how long is this door going to have to be, because it's not going to have to be a full 6 feet whatever. It's going to have to be down to the level of the cutoff, and this door will also have a sweep on it. 3 feet wide, exactly. Now we're not measuring from the inside lip. We're measuring from where the door is going to cover an overhang to create a seal of sorts. So from the bottom of these cutoff boards down to the bottom of the kickboard is 58.5 inches. Down to the bottom of the cutoff for the siding board is 57 inches almost exactly. So the boards that I have to salvage have to be 57 inches or longer, whether I go with the 7-inch or the 5.5-inch width. Let's see what we have. So that was a chore that needed to be done anyway. And you can see there's an awful lot of batten, a couple of boards on here. These are some 12-footers that have laid on the ground and rotted a bit. This barn had gutters installed at some point that it's just fallen apart. You know, I could cut down some of these and use them, but I'd rather use them where they came from, because getting 16-foot long boards or 12-foot long boards to patch up those holes in the barn, that's going to be money I just don't want to spend. And it would look awfully strange. So let's make a new looking door. You may be wondering why I grabbed boards with obvious damage. Well, the distance between the damage on this board, from here roughly to here, is the 57 inches I need. So I'll be making 2 cuts on this board rather than just one, like the board on the end. But the first cut that I'm going to make is actually this cut to make sure that I can attach each of these boards before making them into a door. We'll explain that in a little while. So you can see that this lip here is created by these boards being cut off above the backing board. We need to cut off the bottom of this board flush with that, but not cut the board behind it. How do we do that? We do that with a circular saw, battery powered. Go figure, I don't have power out here. Did once upon a time. Knob and tube wiring in this barn's kind of scary. So circular saw sits like so. For those that don't know, you can adjust the depth of the cut. Currently I have it adjusted very, very deep, but I'll show you in the next clip, we can adjust it to be only that 1/2 inch that's necessary so that we can cut this board without cutting that board. Now, I'm showing you this because I know if I were watching this video, I'd have the same question. Like I said, I'm not a professional, I'm just a DIYer who's sort of starting out. And, you know, a lot of people don't explain this stuff. They just expect you to know or figure it out on your own. But this is a DeWalt 20-volt brushless XR series. I bought a bunch of battery powered because I knew I wasn't going to have plug-in power or not enough of it. In order to adjust the depth of the cut, you need the deck plate to move. This lever right here, twist it up, now the deck plate moves. Simple as that. I take a look, eyeball it, and that looked like about 1/2 inch or a centimeter or whatever that thickness of that board was. Yeah, looks about right. Twist it back. There you go, now it's adjusted. take that, match it up to the board, do that again, fiddle around, make sure it's just right so that you're not cutting what's underneath, you're just cutting the board you want to cut. Straightforward enough, right? Now, I didn't realize, because I'm an amateur, that I would run into this piece. That's fine, I wanted this piece to come off anyway. It's freely hanging, I just have to take the nail out. This piece, there was never any paint here. I do not know what the thought process, if there was one, was for the people before me, but now we have an even lip, so I can make a nice match door, and I'll be putting this piece on the door to kind of match it up to what's above it. I might just replace the entire thing and use a new board to make it match, tie it in. We'll see what happens. We'll see what I have on hand for that length. All right, now that we've measured 3 times, we can cut once of, however many it takes. Board, I'm going to start with the one that's kind of screwed up on both ends. I'm going to make one cut here without measuring because I know how much of this end needs to come off. The other end is in slightly better shape, so that's the end that I'll have a little leeway on if it's 57, 57 and a half, 58 inches. The measurements I got were 57 and a quarter to 57 and a half. So fingers crossed. Maybe I'll cut everything to 58 inches and then take ½ an inch off the bottom once I've got them all up there. We'll see what happens. It's okay. You can cut more than once. No nail. $57 or $58, either measurement will work. Well, I marked it at 58 and it came out at 57 and a half, so cut everything long. Into the scrap wood bin and let's get to the rest of them. That was 58 dead on. I figured out what I did. First cut, I was looking here. That's a 1/4 inch difference. Second cut, I was looking here. That's where the blade actually runs. Amateur. Cut everything long. It'll all come out in the end. All right, so I've got my 6 pieces of 1x6 cut, and they look a little short, don't they? Remember that sweep is going to go on the bottom. Now, these are tongue and groove boards, so I've got options of putting this end up, or putting this end up. And it's just a matter of which of these do I want looking me in the face. Now I can always change the order of these boards, and I'm going to do a little playing around off camera. But that's the next step of the brain work for this door. Next step here is to affix the back of the door to some supports. As you can see, that is all cattywampus, and screwing that into some backers will fix that. The other thing we have to take into consideration is the boards that I used are thicker than the barn boards, so now I have about a ½ inch to make up here. I'll just put some blocking behind the hinges that I'm going to use, and that should secure it correctly so that this door can swing. I intentionally left a ½ inch or so gap so that the wood can expand and contract and make sure to clear all the way down, and I won't be rubbing up against and trying to open this as the wood catches on itself. The tongue actually creates a little gap behind there, so I should clear everything, hopefully. We'll find out. Need 38.5 for 2 of them. That's 76. This is not quite that much. Okay, back to the wood pile. Or not. Lucky me. These offcuts measure a nice little 36.5, almost 37. That is enough that I will be able to pair them up behind the door. Alright, we're almost done. I've got my blocking with screws in it, not quite coming through the back so that they're easier to put up there one-handed. I've got the same thing done to this board. Cut it to length, matches up well enough. Let's get this blocking in place. All right, So my blocking screws are not going to run into the screws holding this siding board on. I'm going to leave a gap here so that my door is not running into itself. And then we take the hinge, hold on to this door. This wood is so soft, it is so old. Like I said, doesn't matter that much that it's split. It's gonna have another 3 or 4 screws in it. All right, can't see any of my screws through here and should be able to put all 4 in there. Get it up against the door. I don't think I'm gonna put a screw in there because it's sitting on a gap, but these 3 should hold this door in place right about here at the barrel of the hinge, clearing like this so that it's not riding on this piece of wood. I want it out in space just a tad. You'll notice I'm not pre-drilling anything. And the wood that I'm going into is pine. This, I believe, is also pine from the smell, and it's 100 years old and a little bit waterlogged, so it's soft as can be, so no pre-drilling for me. That's close enough for pre-drilling work. It's on there. What more do you want, right? All right, match this guy up and see if it gives us as much trouble as the first one. Yeah, there's gonna be just a smudge of play in this. Shouldn't be a problem. That's why I didn't build this super tight to the edges. Plus, if I take up that play as I screw this in, a little less play once I unsecure this door. Yeah, that's on a split. Get that above the split. Gotta love the sound of wood cracking as you work on it. Voila! Now we get to see if this door will hang. Take out those screws and find out. Moment of truth. I didn't watch it sag. I screwed this board into this support instead of this support. I'll get the moment of truth in just a minute after I switch bits. Jeez. All right, now the real moment of truth. This is the only thing holding up this end of the door, so let's see how much it shifts. Ooh. Ooh. Well, that came down about a 1/4 inch. Let's see if it opens. Well, I'm pretty pleased with that. Well, YouTube, you may be as surprised as I am that I managed to make a door swing so nicely on salvaged hinges. Now, there is a bit more to do to this door. Obviously, this door sweep needs to be put in. Now, if you were an overachiever, you might put handles on this door. Personally, I rather like the look It blends right in. It creates a false frame for the door, much better than the gap with the other door would. And this oddity in the wood, where I presume there was once upon a time a knot, works just perfectly at my height for a place to grab it. So I'm going to call that a wrap for the moment. We'll get the bottom of this finished up on another video, and Big Red Barn Farms will BRB. Alright, I'm either going to save you some yelling at the screen or save you some commenting if you watch to the end of the video. I made a mistake, not because I'm an amateur, but because it took so much energy to make the first YouTube video I've ever made. And I only put one screw in per board, and that allowed this to sag. So I went ahead and put 2 screws in per board, top and bottom. So door is actually where it's supposed to be now, thanks to the trusty floor jack. Took a little finagling, but I was able to put this on here, put the door on, and prop the door up to the height it should be. So now the latch that I installed actually goes through the hook and eye. And yeah, that was not an amateur mistake, just a first-time YouTuber mental energy mistake. Looks pretty good from the inside, doesn't it? Looks how it's supposed to for an old barn.